Okay, stay tuned to this because it could save or cost you some money. Joining us now to talk about this new tax plans and what it means for California is Congressman Mark DeSaulnier from the East Bay. In the Bay Area, who are the winners, who are the losers if this thing goes through?
People who have investments. The more investments you have, the wealthier you are, the better you're going to do.
Okay, and who are the losers?
The losers are people who use the state and local tax deductions and who have mortgages over $500,000.
Okay, so if you have a mortgage over $500,000, which is pretty much pro forma in the Bay Area these days, what are you looking at?
You'll have a cap of, if it stays the House version that the Senate seems to have agreed to, because Susan Collins, you'll have a cap of $10,000 that you can deduct for.
Okay, that's
for property tax. So you'll lose the state income tax deduction.
Okay, will you lose your mortgage deduction as we know it now on the interest you pay on your home?
If it's over $500,000, that portion.
Okay, so it's going to cost there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what about income earners, let's say, who make a household that makes over $200,000, which again is common in the high-end Bay Area or the high cost of the Bay Area?
You'll lose. I mean, it's all directed at the top 1% will benefit from it, with the assumption that they and corporations with this extra money they have is going to put more money into wages and benefits of people, which, according to the independent analysis, is not accurate.
Okay. When we talk about corporations in other parts of the country, we're talking about financial institutions and factories. When we're talking about corporations here in the Bay Area, we're talking tech. Mm-hmm. What did tech get out of this?
Same thing as the other. If you have an investment, if you have investments, if you rely on investments, you're going to do well. That's why the stock market is responding in a positive way. But as we've seen, because the stock market does well and people with investments do well, that doesn't translate to middle-income people and working people getting a benefit. And therein is one of the big arguments. They are saying, take it on faith, that these corporations and wealthy people will spend more money on wages and benefits and consumer goods. That's not what the independent analysis, and that's not what history tells us.
Now, one of the arguments for it was that the Googles and Apples, which have a lot of their profits offshore,
right,
would be given the opportunity to bring them back to the United States and invest them, say, in factories and jobs. What do you think of that?
That's what the Republicans argue. The independent analysis says that's not what they think will happen.
What does tech say? Have they made any promises one way or another?
I think tech has been noticeably silent on this from what I've seen, because they tend to be more progressive. They tend to be in the Bay Area where the Democrats, it's a blue state. So they have been pretty agnostic or out of the argument, except for individual big players who have expressed their opinion in the past that doing this kind of trickle-down doesn't work.
Okay. California and New York are the two most vulnerable to this idea that we will no longer be able to deduct our state and local taxes from our federal taxes. Mm-hmm. How did we wind up with such high state and local deductions to begin with?
This was the relationship through multiple Democratic and Republican administrations and Congresses, that they were higher cost states, so they needed higher taxes. They generally contributed more to the national economy. These blue states do about 65% of the GDP right now, because that's where the money is, that's where the growth is. So the federal government thought it was a good inducement to let them pass along a portion of the costs.
And we, being how we are, just readily agreed and kept doing it,
yeah,
right?
We did. But having said that, we still, even without these, even with these, we contribute more to the federal government than we get back. California does.
What do you think the odds are that this bill passes and this tax code passes the House when it goes back?
We go back tomorrow to put it in a conference. It'll get to the president's desk. And one of the questions is, are the concessions that Senator Flake got about Dreamers, Senator Collins got about state and local taxes, will those things be incorporated? And if they're not, will they vote against the bill when it goes to the Senate?
So it's not over till it's over?
That's right.
Okay, so we'll stay tuned this week?
We'll have more fun for you. Maybe I'll be back.
Okay. All right. Now, that's Congressman DeSaulnier. I want to thank you for joining us this morning.